Okay, so let's look at E, the free response practice from your big fat packets. So we're looking for the answer to this question. I'm going to try to solve this a little bit differently than the other video you watched, worked it out. So we have a separate pump on the bottom of the same oil tank is used to remove oil from the tank, and this pump supplies oil from the tank to be used by an HVAC system, okay, blah, 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 to keep a building warm by combusting the oil at a constant rate of 2 gallons per hour. So that's a rate. Then it's asking on what time interval is the oil level in the tank increasing? Okay, so at this point, it's a little bit hard to see, but we're talking about the oil level in the tank when it's increasing. So what I'm going to think about first is that R of t, so this is I just rewrote from the very first problem. R of t, this is my rate of, and if I'm reading the problem, so I'm flipping because I have 2 copies open, but this says that this is the rate of oil being pumped. So rate of oil being pumped, like into the tank, and that's in gallons per hour. So what this is this is already a rate. So I'm already pumping in at this rate. So R of t is not like how many, but it's the rate. So how fast am I going in? So I'm going in at like -4 cosine pi thirds t plus 4 like gallons per hour. But there's a chance that I would be combusting oil at 2 gallons per hour, and they want to know when in that time frame is my tank going to be increasing. That means that basically I need to have some kind of R of t that's greater than 2, right? I need my rate to be greater than 2, because if I'm leaking at 2 gallons per hour, then I want my rate to be a little bit more than 2. So for instance, if I'm pumping in at 4 gallons per hour, but then I'm taking out at 2 gallons per hour, then I'm actually only increasing by 2 gallons per hour. Just like a normal, like adding and subtracting, it just is weird because it's a rate. So here's what I like to think about. Here's my graph. And I'm basically, if I have -4 cosine plus 4 is my midline, 1, 2, 3, 4. You don't have to draw this graph. This is just me kind of getting an idea. My graph looks something like this, where my max is going to be 8. This is my rate, and I'm looking for where it's greater than 2, because at this rate, like if I'm like pumping in like 1 gallon per hour here, and I'm like, so like 1's going in and 2 are coming out, then technically I'm decreasing the amount that's going in the tank because I'm pulling more than I'm putting in. So I'm going to be looking for this section of time where my rate is greater than 2. So here's what I do to do that. You're probably like, well, I don't have a calculator because this is a non-calculator section. You are right, but I know I'm looking for a rate that's basically, this is like my rate of 2. That's how much is coming out. So I'm going to actually set my rate equal to 2 so that I find what these x values are, those x intercepts. So I'm going to have -4 cosine pi thirds t plus 4, and I want to find like where that's just equal to 2. So I'm going to solve this just like a normal equation. Let's just try to get the cosine spot by itself. So I subtract 4 from both sides. I get -4 cosine pi thirds t equals -2. Just subtracting 4. Then I can divide both sides by -4. So cosine of pi thirds t equals +1/2. So you're probably like, well, what the heck? This is weird. Here's what I like to think about. Where is just cosine of x equal to 1/2? Where is cosine of x just +1/2? Well, if you remember, cosine of x is positive in these 2 quadrants, and cosine is 1/2 whenever I'm at a pi thirds, or I want to think in terms of positive time, right? So I'm trying to think positive, or 5 pi thirds. So like 1 less than a 1/6, right? So essentially, I want my angle, this pi thirds t, to either be pi thirds or 5 pi thirds. So I need to solve for t. So from here, I know that my pi thirds t, that needs to be like pi thirds when I plug it in, which means t needs to be 1, right? Because those pi thirds can cancel, I'm just dividing. Or pi thirds t needs to be 5 pi thirds. So in that case, then I would look for a t that's equal to 5. So between 1 and 5, right, Not when it's equal. I want to know when it's increasing. You can use parentheses like or brackets, but I know that it's increasing between 1 and 5 hours, because T is hours. So again, this is like the point that I just found, 1, 2, and this is the point 5, 2. So I just found those intersections by figuring out what my y was equal to, or in this case, my other rate, because when I'm greater than that rate, I know that I'm like putting in more to the tank than I'm taking out. So your interval is from 1 to 5. I hope that helps.